All right, people. Review of the week time, and what a week it has been. It's honestly been crazy. We started this week with the fallout of the last crescendo, and with that, I kind of was thinking, like, what's really gonna happen this week, because there's not much on. We didn't know at the time the Eubank Benn press conference will be on, and oh boy, we'll talk about that now. It was excellent, if I do say so myself. It really was. Both of them were. But we didn't really know what was going to go on this week, and a lot of us, it slipped out of our minds that Tank Davis was fighting on Saturday, because it kind of did, because Tank Davis has been pretty irrelevant over the last 2 years really. And then there was the show in Belfast. Every card, obviously Frank did a card as well. I haven't seen any of the fights on it, because Joe Joyce, I was keen to see how Joyce would look, but he got pulled from the card for whatever reason. Probably going to try and save him, just because disaster could strike, God only knows, for the Dylan White fight in April. And yeah, it's been a crazy week, and we've missed things. It's been that crazy. There was a major announcement of a major weekend, and I mean a major weekend of boxing in May. And yeah, that's a lot to talk about, a lot to digest. We'll review the fights that happened over the weekend, and I feel it's necessary to start with the American show, and then we'll talk about the show in Belfast. Now, I have to say, I've only seen the main event. I see Jarrett Hurd lost. I'm not surprised. Jarrett Hurd, I did a video a couple of years ago, a documentary style video, and I think it was titled "When Hype Jobs Face Reality," and I had Hurd listed as one of those fighters. Now, some people would say, well, Jarrett Hurd was a world champion, he was a unified world champion, is he a hype job? Well, he's not won a meaningful fight pretty much since he fought Erislandy Lara. He got outboxed by Jason Wellborn, a British level fighter. He outboxed him. He only won on a body shot because he was way bigger, right? He fought J-Rock. J-Rock is a decent fighter, but he's nothing to write home about. J-Rock beat him. He's not done anything since then. I remember at the time, there were people who were literally putting Jarrett Hurd on pound for pound lists. The guy was a big weight bully. That's all he did. He marauded forward with no regard for defense, and he was just able to outman much smaller 154 pounders. And now at middleweight, he can't do anything. Shock. So he takes a loss there. In terms of the rest of the card, I didn't see anything other than the Tank Davis fight, and I know I've already done a review on that. It's still a major talking point. It's a major point of contention, and that obviously is the fight itself, the scoring of the fight, but in particular round number 9. So round number 9 in the Tank Davis fight against Lamont Roach, Tank Davis took a knee voluntarily. Now, he no sooner had he taken the knee, he was back up to his feet. This was after a punch landed, mind you. Wasn't hurt. But he went to the corner, said there was something in his eye, I think from the hair gel he had in, and they wiped it. And the referee in this fight was Steve Willis. Now, Steve Willis, I said this in the post-fight review, that Steve Willis is, in my opinion, one of the better referees in boxing, certainly on the American scene. He is very entertaining in the ring, even though he's a referee, because he really gets into the fights. If you go and look at Sean Porter versus Danny Garcia, type in Steve Willis, and you'll see one of the rounds when them two are having an exchange, and you see Steve Willis just like that, just loving it, just absolutely loving life in there. He seems to really enjoy boxing. He enjoys his job. He's very good at it. If you've ever heard Steve Willis in interviews, he comes across as a very, very nice man, very well spoken. So I'm not knocking him in any way in terms of personality or anything like that. I think he's a good referee. I think as a person, he seems like a real stand-up guy. But he, there's no way of hiding it. He made a big mistake in this fight. And it's frustrating on so many levels, because he was appearing to get ready to administer a count correctly. He then allowed Tank Davis to go to the corner and have them work on him, in a sense of wiping his eyes, which you are not allowed to do. The referee has to give you permission to do that. If Daniel Dubois against Joe Joyce, because that fight was brought up, I saw on X, if Daniel Dubois had been allowed to take that knee, go to the corner, get his eye wiped down, and then proceed with no count, would that have been fair? Of course not. and it wouldn't have been allowed. And the referee, I forget who it was that night, did the correct decision. He administered the count, Dubois had the count out, and that was it. There was no chance of Tank Davis sitting this count out, but nevertheless, it should have been called a knockdown. That's what it was. And why is it so crucial? Because I believe he won that round, Lamont Roach. That would have been a 10-9 round. With the knockdown called, it would have then become 10-8. When it then becomes 10-8, it has implications on the final scoring. Two of the judges had this fight 6 rounds apiece, 114, 114. You throw in a 10-8 round there, those two judges with 114, 114, it becomes 114, 113. That gives Lamont Roach the win. It goes from a draw, a majority draw, to a split decision win for Lamont Roach. That one decision by Steve Willis, the wrong decision cost Lamont Roach this fight. And the fact that allegedly, you didn't hear this, Tank Davis was saying to Roach after, you're not going to get the decision, as if he just knew, right, I've got this in the bag. They're not gonna make me lose this fight. They're going to give it to me whether I deserve it or not. Shocking stuff. And it comes after a week where we had such highs in boxing from one of the best cards, not the best card of all time. And that wasn't without its controversy either. Hamza Shearer versus Carlos Adames. And we just don't need this. Eyes are on the sport. Benn, Eubank, all that. And you don't want to give people ammunition to chuck back and say, this is boxing, decisions, this, that, and the other. Don't get that in MMA. Stuff like that. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I don't know. I really don't. Wrong decision by Steve Willis in the fight. Like I said, a good referee, a very commendable man, but you got it wrong. There's no ifs or buts. You got it wrong, and you cost the man his fight. You cost Lamont Roach the fight. Simple as. So I'm not going to labour the point on this card too long. Like I said, I have to go and have a look at the highlights and stuff from the rest of the card, which are not the easiest to find. I mean, obviously you can see the small little clips PBC give you, but you want to see a bit more than that. So there is that. Let us talk about the card up in Belfast. Now, I think I might have already said it, but I didn't get a chance to look at Frank's card at all. One, because I was only really keen on seeing Joe Joyce. And when I found out he was off the card, I was kind of like, Lewis Edmondson. Nah, no disrespect to him as a person, but I felt that the Belfast card was better. It had more fights I was interested in. And the atmosphere in the SSE Arena, as I said it would be, was electric. Man, the Irish fans, they're the best. They come out in force, especially for an all-Irish affair like that. It's just the best. It really is. I'm just sad I wasn't there because it looked electric. Me and Addy are going to be recording on Thursday night, so I'm going to be 100% asking him about that and talking about that. We'll inevitably talk about that when we go and record on Thursday. I'm really looking forward to that. I always look forward to it, but in particular this one, it's going to be a fun show. It really will. Yeah, it looked epic, and more fights like this in Ireland, please. I hope that we will see a rematch of the main event. I think we should do it on neutral territory in Ireland. I think we should do it in Dublin or Galway, to be honest with you, because that's neutral. You won't find any Limerick guys who like dubs, so there you go. They won't, Dublin is neutral, or maybe bring it to Galway, bring it to the West Coast. I'm sure there's some arenas there that are big enough to host it. So I'd love to see that. And the atmosphere would be just as good in Dublin or Galway as it would be in Belfast or Limerick. So there you go. Or Cork. Maybe it's probably a bit too close to Limerick, but you know what I mean. So I'd love to see this rematch, but let's talk about the card before we talk about the main event. So on the undercard, Shauna Brown versus Elaf Turin. I think is how you pronounce her name. I wasn't going to talk. I just seen this on Before the Bell. And Shauna Brown is from Clonmel, County Tipperary, 30 years old, 5-0 going into this fight. Elaf Turin is 29 years old from Istanbul, Turkey. Boy, can that girl crack. Holy crap. She was hurting Shauna Brown before the knockdown happened. It was a left hook. And I mean, maybe the referee could potentially have let it go on. Maybe. But, man, that girl hits hard. Damn, you don't really see punching power like that for females. Very seldom. I mean, you can only really think, I suppose you do see the odd, very seldom as I said, but you do see the odd girl with power. I mean, Savannah Marshall comes to mind, or that girl who knocked out Ramla Ali with the left hook. That was one of the nicest shots I've ever seen. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shot. This was also a beautiful shot, to be fair, that knocked out Shauna Brown. Well, stopped her. Beautiful left hook. There's something about a perfectly timed left hook. I love a straight right hand. I love a good uppercut. But a perfectly timed left hook, that's just perfect. It's the perfect shot to look at. You could watch that over and over again. It really is amazing. Tommy McCarthy fought Stephen Ward. Now, that was a proper loser leaves town crossroads type of fight. Stephen Ward started his career at light heavyweight, moved up to cruiserweight. He's not really done much at either weight, respectively. I remember he got knocked out in a round by... I can't think of his name now. He fought Joshua Boazzi in that golden ticket tournament, which... there ain't no golden ticket for that. His name completely escapes me. The Latvian fighter, you know who I'm talking about. But he knocked out Stephen Ward in a round. And since then, it's been kind of a bit of obscurity for Stephen Ward. That's going to bug me now. What was his name? Ricards Bolotnik. I knew it was something. I was thinking like Sergio Ricards or something. Ricards Bolotniks. Well, Stephen Ward was never a puncher at light heavyweight, but goddamn, he looked like a puncher in there against Tommy McCarthy. Knocked him down in the second round and then ultimately stopped him in the sixth. Good stoppage by the referee. McCarthy was never in it. I do worry about McCarthy because his speech is sounding a little bit so I think he needs to... He's not looked the same since the rematch with CBS. That's when I know it was the real noticeable decline of Tommy McCarthy. Since then, it's just been painful. It really has. So I would be advising him to call it a day. Kurt Walker against Leon Woodstock. Not an amazing fight, it has to be said. Woodstock, every time he stepped up, he's always been found wanting. He's lost to some good competition. He's lost to Archie Sharp. I believe he lost to, Zelfa Barrett and Kakache. So he's only really lost to really good domestic fighters. One of them went on to become a world champion, but nevertheless, every time he stepped up, he's lost. He's not getting any younger. And Kurt Walker, no punching power with Kurt Walker. That's one thing I will say. He's got no punching power whatsoever. But he's a decent engine, and he'll be in some entertaining scraps. Craig Richards versus Podrick McCrory. I really was shocked at how bad Podrick McCrory looked. He looked terrible in there. I think that was his first fight after, or was it? It was his second fight after the Edgar Berlanga fight, but he looked awful in there. He looked absolutely shocking. And I thought he'd have a good chance in there. I really did. He'd won titles at 175. He won the IBO title at 175 a couple of years ago. Defended it a few times as well, I think. And I thought Podrick McCrory, good puncher, good fundamentals. Him against Craig Richards would be an even Steven fight. I wasn't necessarily picking him. Craig Richards back with Tony Sims, and he looked brilliant in there. Best I've seen him in a long time. And he was able to really, really beat up Podrick McCrory and stop him, as I said, in 8 rounds. I don't think there's anything left in McCrory's gas tank at this stage based upon that performance. I really don't. And he took a pounding in there. He really, truly did. Credit to Craig Richards, though. He's brought himself back into things. He really has. Main event, Paddy Donovan, Lewis Crooker. Where do we start with that? Now, as I said, I've already done a review on that fight. We kind of know... We all know what happened. Billy Nelson has told the ring that he will categorically, Lewis Crooker, be fighting for a world title next, and the referee was 100% right. You would say that, Billy Nelson, wouldn't you? I mean, it was 100% right to take the fight with Joseph Parker for your guy Martin Bacoli on a couple of days' notice. Is he fighting on that American show in May? Is he? Oh, I don't think so. Really did a good job there, didn't you, Billy? But... in terms of the actual fight, it was going Paddy Donovan. Like, I was looking at the scorecards on BoxRec. Paddy Donovan only lost one. Well, he didn't lose a round. He actually lost a point in round number 6, which ultimately caused him to lose a point. So it was 69 something. I think 69-65 on one of the scorecards. One of the other judges was actually a bit more generous, and I think he gave Crooker one of the rounds, probably the second round. But it was Paddy Donovan was winning this fight comfortably, as I thought he would. Lewis Crooker's not a bad fighter, but Paddy Donovan he's just significantly better in every department. Might not be the bigger in terms of size, but significantly better in every department. So I was expecting Paddy Donovan to go in, win the fight, probably on point or late stoppage, and he was well on course to it. Look, yes, Paddy Donovan was reckless with the head. He absolutely was. Reckless. But there's a difference between being reckless and intentional. It didn't help that Lewis Crooker was bending over. Well, I say bending over. He had the high guard, he had the chin tucked down and leaning over your lead foot. So you're open for an uppercut. Paddy Donovan was meeting him and was just reckless. So the heads were coming together. It will happen, right? I think Andy Lee summed it up that yes, Paddy and Lewis Crooker, they did come together, but at the end of the day, some of those were actually kind of Lewis Crooker born in as well. And Paddy was the one who was constantly getting the warnings from the referee, the point deductions and all that. And then in the 8th round, when it was apparent that Lewis Crooker's eye was completely swollen, he couldn't see out of it, he gets hit after the bell. Now, so had there not been those 2 deductions, what I think would have happened is I think that the referee would have deducted 2 points from Paddy Donovan and then let it continue, to which point either the ringside doctor, because God knows Billy Nelson probably wouldn't do it, the ringside doctor or possibly the referee would have just stopped the fight then anyway, because there's no way you could let Lewis Crooker carry on like that. You just couldn't. You can't see out of one side. You can't do it, you know. So I think that the head clashes are really what caused the DQ. Paddy Donovan, if a rematch happens, I know Billy Nelson is saying we're going to go for a world title fight next. Yeah, I think Eddie Hearn's the guy who's going to have the final say in that, Billy. And I think he'll do this rematch. I'd like to see it. Paddy Donovan, I felt for him. I did. I don't know the guy. I never met him. Never met Lewis Crooker either, but I felt for him. I really did. He was boxing beautifully. I can't argue that it was after the bell. It was blatant. But Marcus McDonnell was very... Yeah, he was... I want to say overtly harsh on Paddy Donovan all night. And as I said, I've seen fighters like Lawrence Okoli in British title fights foul and foul and foul and foul and foul again. And yeah, they got point deductions, but it just seemed like after a while, the point deductions were just like, you're just going to stop me, you're not going to DQ me, so I can do what I like. And they've been led away with blue murder. And I just felt like Paddy Donovan, it was like the one time you decide to actually go and take action. It's for something that, yeah, punch after the bell, I get it. But like, I've seen fighters do way worse and not be admonished as much. So that's what I will say. In terms of a rematch, I hope it happens on neutral territory in Ireland. Where that may be, Dublin, Galway, somewhere like that. I'd love to see a Tree Arena. Man, Tree Arena, be epic. I'd love to see it. I'd definitely go to that because I don't live that well. I do. I live in Swords. It's not quite the Tree Arena, but it's not far. It's really not far. So I'd love to see it. And yeah, let's see. In terms of the news, so... Right. I'm smiling. April into May is going to be epic. You may be asking yourself, well, why is it going to be epic? Well, May the 3rd, we have Canelo Alvarez versus William Skull. That's happening in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Quite unbelievable to think that on a Cinco de Mayo weekend, he won't be fighting in the States or in Mexico. He's fighting William Skull. That'll be for undisputed at 168 pounds. I'm hearing, obviously we know Jaime Munguia, Bruno Saras 2 will be on the undercard. We're hearing rumours of Diego Pacheco amongst others. That's a great card. And then on May the 2nd in Times Square, logistically, that's going to be a flipping nightmare for the production team. But for us, the fans, it's a 3-fight card. And it has Teofimo Lopez versus Arnold Barboza Jr., Devin Haney versus Jose Ramirez, and Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. What the actual F? 3 elite level fighters, 140 pounders, maybe not 140 pounder for Ryan Garcia, but all on the one show in Times Square in New York City. That is going to be, and apparently Inoue is going to be fighting on the Sunday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, biggest names in boxing. I can't believe it. Turki Al-Sheikh really has... He's like, look, Eddie Hearn said when he went to the Zone, it was game changed. I haven't really seen much of a change, or certainly not in that time. When Frank Warren said it about Fury and Ngannou, game changed. Again, I didn't really see much of a game changed. Turki Al-Sheikh has changed the game. I mean, this man has just... It's insanity. And he's made boxing, I know I said earlier, and I hate seeing it when we see the controversial moments happen in boxing, but you think of the broader appeal he's brought to the sport. I mean, you see those MMA YouTubers start covering boxing, they haven't a clue what they're talking about, but the fact that they're doing it shows that they know, holy crap, boxing is absolutely flying at the minute. So this card right here, and mind you, we have the press conference. It is on Tuesday, I believe. Yeah, Tuesday in New York City, 4th of May at 3 p.m. Eastern time. What time that's our time? It's about 9 p.m. UK time, isn't it? It's about 6 hour time difference. Now, I'm just going to say, right, if you thought it was a bit hectic because Eubank Jr., Conor Benn, we might not have seen anything yet, because we're talking about Ryan Garcia, Rowley, Tio, and Devon all at the same press conference. Oh boy. I mean, Barboza and, Jose Ramirez, they might not even turn up, because they are going to be it's going to be, because it's not just going to be there, they're going to be going to everybody. So that press conference is going to be flipping epic. It's just incredible. Now, I see here the Ring Magazine are saying that an AI is generating an image of what the event would look like in Times Square, and again, it looks phenomenal. Yeah, look, I've no doubt it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be enjoyable. It's going to be all those things and more. I just think logistically, it's not me trying to be a negative Nelly or anything like this, but logistically, that is going to be a nightmare. It's going to be. I remember when Eddie Hearn did Fight Camp, which was in his back garden in Brentwood. That looked logistically a nightmare, and that's in his back garden. I can only imagine what this is going to be like, but it's still going to be epic. Some sad news to report though at the same time. Carson Jones, do you remember Carson Jones? His last fight was actually against Ted Cheeseman a couple of years ago, but he had two very good fights with Kell Brook. At age just 38, he's tragically passed away. Thought to go out to his family. Apparently it was a throat surgery or something like that. Complications arose, and yeah, that's rough. So RIP to Carson Jones. Great fighter. He always came to win, always came to give it a go. So credit to Carson Jones, and thought to go out to his friends and family, of course, at this difficult time. Errol Spence actually is back with a very relevant tweet. He says, worst thing I did to myself was drinking. If you're an athlete, focus on the end goal. Hopefully it's a better situation for you and your loved ones. I agree. Now, listen, I myself enjoy a beer now and again. I enjoy a pint of Guinness or Moretti. I do enjoy it now and again, yeah. And I don't really see an issue with having the drink in moderation, even for an athlete. If you finished a hard camp and you've won a fight, if you want to have a beer or two after, again, in moderation, I don't see an issue with that. The problem arises when it's becoming more than moderation. It's becoming, a binge, so to speak. And we've seen with Errol Spence, he was very much a dedicated kind of blue-collar fighter before he beat Kell Brook for the IBF title. At that point, you saw his attitude very much change. Turned up drunk at press conferences, and, alcohol is essentially a poison. I mean, you are essentially poisoning yourself. I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but it's essentially true when you are drinking. And it's cost people their lives. It has, and almost cost Errol Spence his life. Not directly from, drinking it in terms of, damage to the body, but he crashed his Ferrari whilst drink driving. And he is incredibly lucky to still be alive and to still have a career after that. Extremely lucky. And that probably wouldn't have happened had he not been drinking, had he not been under the influence. And I agree with what he's saying there, especially for an athlete, because it can ruin your career. I mean, you look at people, someone like Josh Taylor's not an alcoholic or anything like that, but he's known to have, like a drinker too. Tyson Fury is another one. But you see, it takes years off your career for an athlete. If you want to go and, have beers and stuff like that when you're retired, that's fine. You have all the time in the world. But when you're an elite level athlete, you really, yeah. So it's wise words there from Errol Spence, I have to say, wise words. I really do hope other fighters up and coming heed his warning. I really do. Josh Padley has now signed a promotional deal with Matchroom following his late notice fight with Shakur Stevenson. We're hearing rumours that it could be actually Maxie Hughes who he's stepping in there with, so that'd be very, very interesting. Stan Dubois reveals that Daniel Dubois had a viral infection, which caused his fight with Joseph Parker to be cancelled. Well, pulled out, really. That's what they did. There's also talk that Team Dubois are very much looking at Alexander Usyk as a potential opponent. They want him next. So I've done a video already on this. I quote the Ring Magazine article. They are looking to essentially go straight down the Alexander Usyk road for undisputed, rather than go and revisit the Joseph Parker fight, which I think is very harsh on Joseph Parker. At the end of the day, he did nothing wrong. He turned up. Turned up in good shape, even though he was 20 odd pounds heavier or thereabouts. But he looked very sharp. He looked to be hitting hard. He carried the weight well, and that's another good win. Even if it was a very, very, very late notice Martin Bakole, it's still a great run of form. He deserves a world title shot, and yeah, it does leave a bit of a bad taste in your mouth when Parker is at the back of the queue. Well, not at the back of the queue, but he should be next in line. He really should. So there you go. That's what's happening with Daniel Dubois, Joseph Parker. I'll finish on the press conference of last week because it is a recap of the week, and last week was pretty much dominated by both press conferences with Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. The first one, he egged me. He literally did. The egg to the face. The second one was heated, but in a different way. There was more security on hand. Listen, I don't want to labour the point. I've already talked about it at great length. I think we talked about it with Ade as well. They've sold this fight. That's it. It's going to sell out Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and it's going to do great numbers on pay-per-view. They've sold it. They've done it with those. And this is not a contrived beef or anything like that. You can tell that there is genuine, maybe not on Chris Eubank Jr.'s part, but on Conor Benn's part, he is seething. He's not very good at hiding his emotions. He is seething. He is frosting at the mouth. And I think the fact that it's a genuine beef, it's a bit like their dads, really, because Chris Eubank Sr. knew how to wind up Nigel Benn. And it seems apparent the same way with their sons, respectively. So, I think that they've now sold this fight, which is a very forced fight. But at the end of the day, I guess controversy in beef sells, and the egg was definitely controversial, to say the least. And it got people talking. The second press conference did as well. Eubank's remarks to Nigel Benn. Conor Benn's, just straight away biting, Nigel intervening. I mean, the only thing, I think me and Ade, we went out on Friday for a little bit, and I think me and him were talking, and we both kind of said the only thing that was missing from the press conference, the second one, was when Nigel and Chris were having a go, the glass shattering, in comes Chris Eubank Sr., like something out of WWE. That's the only thing that was really missing, really. It just seemed like something out of WWE. You're just waiting for something. There's the glass shattering, there's Chris Eubank Sr. So, yeah, they've sold this. They have. So this is going to do good numbers. Tottenham Hotspur is going to be full, and it's going to do good numbers. It might be a forced fight, but they've done it. They've sold it with those two press conferences. They really truly have. So I think that's pretty much it. Like, again, it wasn't a crazy week in terms of news. Well, it was, but that was really the news that came was big. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope this hasn't gone on too long. If you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time, people, I will leave it there. I'll probably talk to you at some point this evening, if not tomorrow. Have a great week. I hope you all enjoy it. Just an FYI, we get some content out this week because I'm actually going home for a few days on Friday. Yes, I know. I travel home a lot. I miss home. I miss Dublin. I love Swords. It's my home. But we'll do at A&G Man on Friday. I head home Friday evening for about 5 days. And until then, so you'll get the old background again. It seems like only yesterday it was there. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time.